Nasa modus favere. Mentales favere. Boa. Tá,
Acting Governor General, the Honorable Speaker, the Honorable Justice of the High Court, representing the Honorable Chief Justice, Cabinet and Parliamentary colleagues, Your Excellencies, the members of the Diplomatic Corps, the members of the clergy, the senior public and police officers, distinguished invited ladies and gentlemen, citizens of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the members of the parade ground, today we have turned out in huge numbers. This is a magnificent day that the Lord has made. And let us acknowledge that and rejoice in it. From early this morning, you have turned out and packed all the stands. And the numbers are still growing. And you are, most of you, decked out in national colors. I have followed your example by being dressed in a blue suit, one color of our national flag. I have on a golden tie.
Yeah.
And my wife Eloise is dressed in green. I couldn't do it all myself. I wanted her help. I want to give commendations on your behalf to the excellence of the parade ground this morning. The parade ground included our friends. I hope in the not too distant future to see a female officer commanding the parade ground. You would have noticed the increased numbers of the cadets and of the auxiliaries and the other uniformed officers who are not part, uniformed personnel who are not part of the constabulary. I thank them all this morning on your behalf, on the nation's behalf. I commend to the continued excellence of the policeman. Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, fellow citizens, 25 years ago today, St. Vincent and Grenadines became an independent nation. On that day, October the 27th, 1979, in our new constitution, we reaffirmed that our nation is founded on the belief in the supremacy of God and the freedom and dignity of man. We solemnly express then in our foundation document that we desired our society to be so ordered as to express recognition of democracy, free institutions, social justice, and equality before the law. In our quest to realize the maintenance of human dignity, we pledge to safeguard the right of privacy, of family life, of property, and to foster the pursuit of just economic rewards for the people. Today, 35 years later, on behalf of the sovereign people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, I reaffirm our commitment to these freedoms, principles, and ideals. Accordingly, we proclaim yet again our unwavering belief in God and our bedrock belief in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. A nation does not stand still. If we do not add constantly to our noble heritage, it will be depleted over time. If we do not grow as a people, we will fall. If the nation does not go forward, it will go backward. In order for us to progress as a people, we must believe steadfastly in our country and ourselves. I believe in St. Vincent and the Grenadines and its people. I believe in our Caribbean civilization, of which our nation is an integral and vital part. Fellow Vincentians, the current global socio-economic and political conditions which impact our nation and region is fraught with complex difficulties and challenges. These include the slowdown in the growth of the world economy, the unconscionable dismantling of trade preferences for bananas, the harmful conflicts in Iraq, in Syria, the Middle East generally, and Ukraine, international terrorism, the spread of infectious diseases like Ebola, and the deleterious consequences of climate change. We in St. Vincent and the Grenadines and the region do not contribute to any of these impactful problems, but we are on the front line in facing the pressures and hardships which flow from them. Regionally, the connected though distinct unraveling of CLICO and BICO, these insurance giants, the stresses of some indigenous banks and other financial institutions, unsustainable public debt levels in most Caribbean countries, devastating natural disasters, and an increasing incidence of serious crimes, homegrown and imported, have added to the troubling socio-economic woes. Yet, we cannot allow the global, regional, and national challenges to overwhelm us or to prompt us into a negative posture. We must always be positive. We have many good things going for us, especially our people's resilience, their capacity for hard and smart work, their astuteness in finding spaces and opportunities for advancement in the global and regional condition, the solidity of the tried and tested values of our people, our instinct towards solidarity in the face of natural disasters or other troubles, and the bundle of natural resources at our disposal for our free peoples. Since the global economic meltdown in September 2008 has continued, our country and our region have had a rough economic slide. It has been a difficult ride. Still, the statistics show that we in this country have been weathering the socio-economic storms much better than most of our neighbors. At the same time, there is an urgency in creating greater national wealth, more jobs, and reducing further the vulnerabilities, poverty, and indigence, which still afflict too many of our people. My government is focused always on these multiple tasks, and we have been making progress. But there is much more which is required to be done. Over the last 10 months, since the Christmas Eve disaster, our people and their government have responded admirably to rebuild the lives and material conditions of families, communities, and the nation. In this process, we have been accorded prompt and ongoing assistance from friendly governments and institutions, regionally, in our hemisphere, and internationally. Many of them are here today. We thank them from the bottom of our hearts. In our profound gratitude, we nevertheless assert that we are not, as yet, out of the proverbial road. There's much work to be done in the enterprise of relief, rehabilitation, and sustained recovery. To this end, our government has already mobilized significant resources and is on track to secure more finances for the recovery process over the next 2 or 3 years. Fellow Vincentians, you will note that your government has ensured that we have not only held things together, but we have advanced in progress on several fronts. To begin with, employees in the public sector, including in the central government, have not been laid off as a consequence of any economic or fiscal challenge. Indeed, more persons are currently employed in the state sector than at the start of the global economic downturn in 2000. This is especially so for vital public sector employees, such as teachers, nurses, doctors, police officers, public servants generally, and non-established workers. There have been no spending cuts in critical areas such as health, education, housing, national security, and agriculture. We have been both enterprising and prudent as all the circumstances demand. The delivery of laptops, almost 30,000 to our students, first in the primary and then in secondary school, has been an example of a dramatic commitment to our young people and their education. Our targeted strategic initiatives abound in other areas, such as the unprecedented $20 million housing reconstruction program after the Christmas disaster, the exceptional $6 million soft loan program for farmers, the modernization of the health sector and enhanced delivery of health services as necessary accompaniment to the education revolution, and the targeted investments in the police, coast guard, and fire services, regional air transport, and natural disaster management. Despite the remarkable advances in our health and wellness sector, including in public health and our health partnerships with other governments and institutions. Health threats still loom large. First, there is the pest chikungunya, and now the threat of Ebola. We have taken credible steps in both battles in conjunction with regional and international partners. But much more needs to be done. My government will shortly be announcing even more targeted measures in this regard. Everyone has to be engaged in the campaign against chickpea and Ebola. We are confident that the chickpea can be defeated and the threat of Ebola be overcome with coordinated work through the OECS, CAFA, PAMU, WHO, and ALBA. The working group on Ebola has been established in our country to drive our work in this regard. Fellow citizens and residents, independence, like life and living, is not only about material bread and butter concerns, fundamental as they are. We know the scriptural truth that man and woman cannot live by bread alone. The spirit of love for one another and our nation under God's suzerainty is essential for our life and living. There is in our nation too much unnecessary, unproductive, and even dangerous bickering among neighbors, co-workers, church people, within and between congregations, and members or supporters of competing political parties. Foolish vanities, pride, vengeful spirits, and a lack of unnecessary self-restraint cause too much confusion and blood and even criminal misconduct. Each of us has to re-examine himself and herself and do better. The personal bile and hatred spewed daily by some persons in ordinary conversations, on talk radio, and on the internet ought to stop. The malicious untruths, reckless innuendos, and blatant distortions must give way to the quest for truth, fair comment, and measured language. Robust debate with characteristic Caribbean humor and piquant can be conducted in a competitive democracy without the descent into unbecoming language. At the same time, we must learn to say sorry for errors committed, and also give thanks and gratitude and appreciation for deserving conduct and our abundant blessings. I urge this on all of us at a personal level, as a collective, and as a nation. Our nation's constitution prohibits discrimination of any person by state authorities and holders of public offices on the grounds of sex, race, place of origin, political opinion, color, or creed. Yet this kind of discrimination in favor or against someone has been practiced in the not too distant past, and even currently in some cases. To the extent that any of this exists today, it must be stopped. It is wrong. For example, some state institutions and public officials in the past, and even today, have discriminated against Rastafarians, individually and as a group. Similarly, there has been discrimination at one time or another against religious minorities. For example, spiritual Baptists, and more recently, other minority religious religious groups. In respect of all these acts of constitutionally prohibited discrimination, I say sorry on behalf of the government and people of St. Vincent and Grenadines. We must do better. We can do much better in these respects. Fellow Vincentians, every Independence Day, we begin our reflections historically from at least 1763, when Britain assumed colonial overlordship of our country, consequent upon the Treaty of Paris and the general carve-up of the Eastern Caribbean between the British and the French. Through our history of 216 years of almost unbroken British colonial domination between 1763 and 1979, our people have endured hardship and oppression, native genocide and slavery, indentureship and socioeconomic marginalization, race and class discrimination. Through it all, we have struggled for freedom, justice, and democracy to emerge as a modern, sophisticated, independent nation-state, taking its rightful place in the Committee of Nations International. We are accordingly in the forefront of the just regional campaign for reparations against the former colonial powers on account of the awful legacy of underdevelopment through native genocide and slavery perpetrated against our foreigners. At this time of our independence, we remember our failures and setbacks, our triumphs and advances, our limitations and possibilities in our march for a better life in justice, freedom, democracy, and independence. We remember and praise the valiant efforts of our forebears and their leaders. We remember with profound gratitude the heroic leadership of our national hero, the Right Excellent Joseph Chatelier, Chief of the Carrefour team, and the towering contributions of other exceptional leaders, including especially George Augustus McIntyre, Ebenezer Theodore Joshua, Robert Milton Gato, and J.P. Eustace, all of blessed memory. Sir James Mitchell, who thankfully is still with us, is increasingly being recognized as the historical dust settles for his sound vision. As usual on Independence Day, I have a few announcements. First, the duty-free concessions and Christmas barrels will take effect this year from November the 17th and will run to December the 31st. We have been doing this since 2001. We have been the pioneer of this in the Caribbean. Very shortly too, my government will initiate a huge special Christmas Works program of at least $3 million plus a special cleanup provision of $500,000 for capital city Kingston. Thousands of Vincentians will receive short-term employment under this program as we at the same time improve our physical surroundings, and we will spend all this money before Christmas. The ongoing housing rehabilitation program continues. I am now finalizing an order for a further $6 million for building materials, including a provision for materials with which to commence in January 2015 the Lives to Live housing program of timber construction to cater for persons with physical and other
Lascia